Togo is a feature film that is currently running on Disney Plus, and it is an extraordinary piece of work. It really is, and it will have you in tears. I was sobbing during this movie. True story, and we have with us here, we have the director and cinematographer. He's both of those things, Ericson. Hi, how are you? Right there. And we also have the screenwriter, Tom Flynn, with us. Hi, Tom.
Hey, hi.
And he needs no introduction, a four-time Oscar nominee and so many other things. You've seen him for decades delivering one great performance after another, and this is another one of them, Willem Dafoe.
Great, thank you.
Boy, when I say this is something, this movie, I really mean it. Everybody needs to see this. It's an extraordinary piece of work. Willem, we live in an age of movies with a lot of computer graphics, CGI. This looked real. I imagine there's some effects involved, but this is the real deal we're looking at here. You really sort of lived through that.
That was one of the pleasures. And of course, as an actor, that's always important because you feel like you own, you're coming up against the material when you brush to the side and it goes to CGI or complete CGI, or sometimes you feel a little left out. Well, there was a lot of practical action sequences here. There is some CGI, but the majority of the stuff that you see is actually practical. For example, on that location, we had to travel many hours to reach this, 8,000 feet? And most of the day was getting up there. And then when we had to shoot, it's pretty tough going, but it really roots the action and really makes it, you have a definite stake in everything you're doing because you're paying for every inch you get.
Wow, those are all real dogs you're using in this too. Diesel being the lead dog, the lead star of it, as well as of the in the story, which is an absolutely true story. You're playing a real person here, Willem. They say never work with kids or animals. I don't think they told you that before you started.
Well, the animals are there because we want them to be animals. They aren't always, sometimes they're unpredictable. You got to be patient, but you're there for them because you don't want them adopting, kind of human behavior or zombie-like going through these trainings that they learned. So we were pretty loose with it. Of course, the sled dogs are very athletic. They're very trained. That's what they do. This is what they're used to. I had to really learn from them. And then as far as Diesel, as far as the actual dramatic scenes, we just had to be patient and almost develop a telepathic connection with him, really an understanding, wait for him to be ready. And then when you did connect, when you would come together in a scene, it was beyond anything that you could ever plan because it wasn't canned, it wasn't thought out. It was something that actually happened and was something of a recording of an experience.
All right, Ericson, I want to ask you, you were both cinematographer and director on the same shoot here. So how does that work for you? And what is the most difficult aspect of being your own shooter, essentially?
So I've always done that. I was a DP before being a director. And on commercials and music videos, I did both. So I was somewhat used to it. It is a tremendous amount of work to do both. And I certainly lose the partnership, a very close ally on set of a DP to work with me. So it doesn't give me a lot of time in terms of the conversation, but what it does do is give me a tremendous amount of time on set. The conversations between a director and a DP and the conversations and changing of the guard from a director being on set to a DP being on set and being in charge of it for that moment, I do both. So I work with the actors, I get the scene set up how I'd like it to be. I pick up the end of a couch and start moving it. And then we shoot. I never leave set and we flow well. So I actually gain, surprisingly, a lot of extra time. And I can get more things accomplished in a day because of it, because there's an efficiency to it, although a lot of work. So with that, I'm able to get better performance, in my opinion, because I try to give it to the actors, give them the time for the performance and for us to discuss it going into it, which I find makes a huge difference. As a DP, oddly enough, when I'm working with myself, I know exactly what the director wants, which is an odd question, but there's always that interpretation from a DP. and I have more prep time as a DP because I know what's going on. So that it's fairly intuitive process. And much of the time I also operate the camera. So a lot of the work with Willem, the most intimate work in the film, I operated. So I was incredibly close to him, 3-4 feet away with the camera on my shoulder or down in my hands operating for a lot of the film. And there's a very close intimacy to that. And that was kind of the idea with Togo. We were trying to make a very epic film about the 1925 serum run, yet the small story inside of that of Seppala and his relationship with Togo was really the emotional, personal character-driven journey that we were after. And by getting it to the point that we could eliminate the crew down to some levels, there were many other people working on it, obviously, but for the very immediate moment was myself and Willem directly working together, or myself and Julianne, made a huge difference in terms of the personal and intimate story that we were trying to tell, in my opinion.
Tom, you wrote the screenplay here. How did you come upon it? This is a true story. It happened. It made all the difference in the world in terms of the sled dogs going to these dangerous places to get the serum and bring it back and save a lot of lives. How did this story come about, and how true to life is it?
There's very little that's in this story that you see on the screen that is made up by me. The few things that of action sequences that may not have happened on the serum run actually were done by Togo. So I just pirated them from another episode in his life. But 95%, I guess, is exactly as how it happened. And I was lucky that Disney brought me this. They brought it and handed it to me, and I had a very mischievous dog, Molly, who was an escape artist, and so I bonded immediately. I brought it home and showed it to my wife, and she goes, "This dog's Molly." So I was really taken, and I really fought hard to be able to have the opportunity to write this story. I just loved it that much.
Yeah, I mean, you're just on the edge of your seat through this whole thing, and then it's such a human story too. And I should mention Julianne Nicholson, who co-stars with you, Willem, and she has the two of you have a unique relationship here that you don't always see in this type of film.
Julianne was fantastic. I think we really bonded around this adventure that was shooting this film, because it's a lot of remote locations. It's working with animals. It's really unpredictable weather. So it's a long shoot. It's the Ericson and Disney's credit that they actually scheduled it so we could shoot it properly. So we got a lot of time together. She's got a great role. Tom wrote her a beautiful role that is very important, because without her kind of sensitivity, her kind of compassion, and her intelligence, I don't think it would be quite credible that she would make my character change like he does in this movie, because she's really instrumental in having him come to a new understanding about his life and his relationship to her and his relationship to his future and the relationship to Togo. So that's really what's, for me, that's moving about it, is she really brings him to a new understanding and a new appreciation of Togo.
Willem, let me ask you, you really look like you're an expert sledder, or whatever you call it.
I'm not sure.
How long did it take to actually learn how to do that?
Well, I went there early and I started working with the dogs. I had great teachers. The dogs know what they're doing. It was I who had to learn what to do. It looks deceptively simple, but of course there's lots of variables. The character of the dogs, the different combinations of the dogs, the terrain, the weather. So it took some learning. And one of the first things I remember is they said, if you ever dump the sled, if you ever crash, just do us a favor, please, just hang on. Because these dogs love to run so much that if you lose the sled, they're gone for a good long time. And then we have to find them. And it's also could be dangerous for them. So I must admit, I crashed many times, but I can brag and say that I never let that sled go once.
Amazing. This really is, again, I just have to say, a remarkable movie. Listen to me and check this one out for sure. Thank you all for joining us today on Contenders, and best of luck going forward. I hope you get to work in warmer locations next time.
It's okay. This was pretty much fun.